Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this special meeting of the Angus IJB Audit Committee. I would remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I have agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking.
I've done it.
They've done it. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. So item 1 is apologies.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Members are reminded that in terms of the Code of Conduct of members of devolved public bodies, it is their responsibility to make decisions whether to declare an interest of any item on this agenda and whether to take part in consideration of that matter. Are there any declarations of conflict? No, thank you. So item number 3, which is the main item on this agenda, which is report number 7625, and it's the Angus IJB 2024 to 25 audited annual accounts. And if I can ask the Chief Finance Officer to introduce the report, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thanks to everybody for attending for this special meeting to consider our accounts. I'm just going to make a couple of brief introductory comments. I'll pass over to my colleague Jane to just highlight one or two things that we've been looking at in the accounts, the process we've got to the point of being able to share these. Then, obviously, I will pass over to Pauline. Welcome to Pauline and Neil. And Pauline, I'm sure you'll want to be able to speak about the appendix to the annual audit report. So that's the order we'll do. I'm just going to make one or two brief comments. Today, it's a special meeting, obviously, in terms of considering our annual accounts and the audit report. I suppose it is a key governance point for us. We've seen the draft accounts. We've had the audit process hopefully completed successfully, and hopefully we'll find out about that today. And the annual accounts, just to remind everybody, Jane might touch on this, they do cover and describe things like our governance, financial governance arrangements, and where we are in terms of financial reporting. I think that's probably all I was going to say. I thought I was going to say more. I'm not actually. There's not much more for me to say. So I'll pass over to Jane just to make some comments, because we have made one or two very small changes on the accounts since you saw the draft accounts in June. So Jane, do you want to just pick that up, please?
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So since as Sandy said there, since we shared the accounts in June, there's been a number of minor changes that have been made. So first of all, on page 40 to 43, against the performance reporting, this has all been updated to reflect the annual published report in August. Noting this occurs every year following the submission of the unaudited accounts. Against the annual governance statements, page 53 to 61, there were some minor typo changes, and where previous narrative had referred to updated reports at the end of June, we've subsequently updated that to the current position. Against the management commentary, page 37 to 52, provides an overview of the IJB's overall strategic position. It outlines the current financial outlook and highlights key risks, providing an understanding of both the IJB's financial performance and its strategic content. Next, I would go to page 67, which is the comprehensive income and expenditure statement, and this shows a year-end deficit of 2.428 million, reflecting planned use of reserves. On page 68, we have the movement in reserve statement, which highlights this change with a closing reserves balance of 19.8 million. And then lastly, if you then go on to the notes of the financial statements, in particular note 9 on reserves, on page 75, this details all the reserves, including our contingency, which is a reserve of 7.2 million. And I don't know whether at this stage, Sandy, or not, but I would just want to reflect that overall the process has been very smooth and we've worked collaboratively with the auditors, and I would just want to pass on our thanks for all their support throughout this process.
Thanks, Jane. Pauline, could I ask you to comment from the Audit Scotland point of view on the process and your findings? Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Thank you and good morning. I would just like to reflect positively on the process, certainly this year. I think before I go on to talk to the papers and the annual audit report itself, just like to just highlight some discussions we've been having, specifically around about the timetable for the audit. You'll note in previous years, particularly pre-COVID, the audit would have been signed off much earlier than this. Members will no doubt be aware that Audit Scotland has been following a process of prioritisation for the sign-off of our audits to get us back to a previous timetable. Our resources are primarily focused on health boards, councils, pension funds, so those bodies that provide assurances to other auditors. But the intention is to incrementally bring deadlines back so that we're signing off before the end of September, which is the deadline. And I would certainly hope to achieve that for next year for the IJB. Once we've just concluded 24-25, but we will be moving into planning for 25-26. And as part of those initial discussions with management, we'll explore what a timetable for next year looks like to bring sign-off forward for the IJB's account. So hopefully that provides a bit of reassurance about the progress that we're hoping to make. So I think I'll probably just jump on and start going through the papers. So if you turn to Appendix 1 of today's papers is our covering letter. This letter is prepared under ISA 260, and it's specifically addressed to those charged with governance for the IJB, and that is this audit committee. You will see paragraph 1, the most important bit of the letter is that the audit is now complete and subject to some final checks. I expect to be able to issue an unqualified, clean audit opinion, which will be signed hopefully later today. Appendix A has a copy of the independent auditor's report that I'll be signing and has now been placed into the accounts. ISA 260 requires me to bring to members' attention any significant findings that have arisen as a result of our audit. And you'll note there that I highlight in paragraphs 2 to 4 that there were no significant issues that arose from our audit this year that I need to bring to your attention. I also have no uncorrected misstatements that I have to bring to your attention as well, which I think is a very positive outcome for the audit. I'm also required to confirm from the committee as those charged with governance that they're not aware of any actual suspected or alleged frauds, any events that have occurred since the date of the accounts, which is 31st of March, or any non-compliance with laws and regulations. Nothing's been brought to my attention thus far during the audit, but just pause there to confirm that there's nothing with regard to those bullet points that members would like to raise at this point. Okay, I shall take silence as positive. Just moving on through that covering letter, you'll see there at Appendix B, there's a draft letter of management representation, and that's prepared under ISA 580. Members will have seen this in previous years. It's quite standard wording, and it's just a letter to provide from the CFO as the Section 95 officer, assurances to provide to me, and that will be signed at the same time as the accounts are signed later today. So we move on to the annual audit report itself. Essentially, the annual audit report summarises the work that the audit team has done during the 24-25 audit. Page 3 of the report details the key messages from the work that we've done. That covers both the financial statements themselves, but also covers the wider code areas that frame public sector audit in Scotland, and also best value arrangements. Just moving through the report, first thing is that Exhibit 1 of the report. I repeat for members' attention the materiality levels that we applied for our audit work. You'll see there overall materiality of 4.75 million and a reporting threshold of £200,000. The reporting threshold is a level at which I would bring to your attention any adjustments or misstatements that we uncovered as part of the audit. And as I mentioned earlier, there were no misstatements or errors that we need to bring to your attention today. As I said before, ISO 260 requires me to bring to your attention any significant findings or key audit issues that arose during the audit, and there was nothing to bring to your attention. Exhibit 2 of the report outlines the one significant risk and material misstatement, which members recall that we had in our annual audit plan earlier in the year, and that relates to a standard risk that we include for all of our audits, and it relates to management override of controls, and it just reflects management's unique position to be able to override any financial controls in place. So you'll see there that we have a range of audit procedures that we carried out during the year to address the risk and the results and the conclusions from that work. The procedures predominantly include obtaining assurances from the auditors of NHS Tayside and Angus Council. And you'll see there that we have concluded that there was no evidence of management override. The remainder of the report covers the wider dimension areas and arrangements for best value. And you'll see that we make positive comments on financial management and budget monitoring, scrutiny, governance and transparency. We have in the section on financial sustainability included a recommendation which won't come as a surprise to members. We've highlighted the increase in the contingency reserve from 6.9 million to 7.2 million, which we note there supports short-term financial sustainability, but it's not a sustainable strategic solution to the underlying funding shortfall for the IJB. And our recommendation there is that the identification and delivery of planned interventions to support achievement of recurring savings is prioritised. We've included that in the action plan, and you will see that management have included a detailed response for that recommendation, and we will follow that up as part of next year's audit. That was all I wanted to say on the audit of 24-25. Happy to take any questions or comments. I'm joined on the call by Neil, who's a senior auditor on the audit, but I'd just like to extend my thanks to the team for all their support and assistance in getting us to this point in this year's audit. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Pauline, for that report. And thanks for the assurances about the timetables for next year, so that's appreciated. That's been a difficulty in the last few years, but good to see that things are going to change in the future. And also, I make the point, we take on board the point that the good working relationships between yourselves and the management team here, and thank you for that. So I'll just throw that open to the meeting in general. Has anybody got any questions on the report that Pauline has just outlined? I don't have anything other than noting the only pick-up point I really take from it is the financial sustainability and the short-termism of the current financial provisions, but we've known about that for some time now, and there are measures in place to address that. So apart from that, has anybody got any questions, comments, smiles?
Gillian as well.
Yes. Okay, I've got Sandy and Gillian want to speak. Gillian, would you like to speak first? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to acknowledge and for the committee's assurance that in terms of the recommendation made that in the report, that it is something that we have picked up and we do ongoing work around our planned interventions and our ability to actually deliver on those planned interventions. But Chair, if it's okay, I would also just like to extend my thanks to both Sandy and Jane in terms of their financial stewardship alongside the way that they work with other members and other officers within the Health and Social Care Partnership. to get us into this financial position. So just to extend thanks to them. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much for that, Gillian. We'll pass over to Sandy.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Pauline, for going through the report. Yeah, I was just going to kind of, I suppose, just almost for the sake of it, but it is important, just join a few of the dots. We've already commented on the financial sustainability issue, and that is a regular theme of things that we discuss at the IJB. We'll no doubt flag it up at some point this afternoon when we have an IJB meeting. But there's another couple of things in your report that also link with papers that we will see at our IJB this afternoon. One of the key messages, the sixth key message, does talk about vacancies and where we are with workforce. We've got a workforce report going to our IJB in terms of a workforce plan this afternoon, so that just links your key message up with a workforce plan that's going there this afternoon. And further on in the report under bullet point 50, which is within the overall resources issues, you're flagging up issues associated with general practice, the sustainability group, and again, just to join the dots, we have a primary care update going to our IJB this afternoon, which again reference some of the work that we're doing around those. So there is, and there always will be, links between the key points that, I would like to think there is and always will be links between the key points that you are picking out and flagging up and things that we are either already addressing or hoping to address in our work plan over the coming months. So it's helpful to see that we have got some of those issues joined up. But otherwise, again, I just also grateful for the support of the audit team during the audit. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Sandy, for that clarification and the items that are coming up in the IJB this afternoon to close out some of those comments in the report. So that's it, basically. I think if nobody's got any points to raise, I'd like to move on to the recommendations in the report. There are 3 of them. And I'll just read them out, just so we're clear about them. The first one is to consider and accept the External Auditor's Annual Audit Report for the Angus IJB, Appendix 2, noting this is prefaced by the associated covering paper, Appendix 1, which includes the proposed Independent Auditor's Report for the period to 31st of March 2025. Specifically, this includes noting the key audit report recommendations and accepting the associated proposed management action. The second recommendation is request that an update on the recommendations and proposed responses brought back to the 29th of April 2026 IJB Audit Committee. And third recommendation, consider the annual accounts and then approve the audited annual accounts for signature by the Chair, the Chief Officer and the Chief Finance Officer of the IJB. So, quite a mouthful, but clear enough. Are we all happy to accept those recommendations as stated? Thank you very much. And yes, Sandy wants to make a comment.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, everybody, for that support. Just in terms of next steps, just to join the dots for people, we have received communication from Audit Scotland yesterday, that allows Steve, who's here today, myself and Jill all to sign those documents electronically. So hopefully we'll all be able to do that this afternoon. I will give a brief update on this discussion at the IJB for everybody's awareness this afternoon, but we'll follow that up, and it's referenced there at 6.4 in the covering report. We'll follow that up with a briefing note to all IJB members to just highlight the process that we've gone through and the outcome of today's discussion. So, Chair, that just, with the recommendations, for everybody, that's just a couple of the next steps that we will take.
Thank you. So that's all good and all in order. So I think that's the meeting at an end. Normally we have a note of the next meeting. I don't have that here, but this has been a special one. So the next scheduled one is, if my memory serves me right, December 16th. Good. Right. Well, thank you very much.